Welcome back to another North Carolina Tar Heels football recruiting podcast here on the one and only TarHeelIllustrated.com. This is THI publisher Andrew Jones. She's director of football recruiting, Miss Deana King. And before we dive into big news today about UNC football recruiting, just a quick reminder, for $8.33 a month, you could be a Tar Heels insider too. Guys, I was on the road a couple of weeks ago. I went to a few drive-throughs, and it's more expensive to get one meal than it is to pay for full access to everything we do at THI for an entire month. And it's the same price. I'm coming up on my 9-year anniversary. August 1st, 2014 was my first day running this site. It was $8.33 a month then. It's still $8.33 a month now. Hop up on board. There's a gift program. Buy a gift for our friends, family members that love the Tar Heels, and you guys can all be insiders and have some interesting conversations when you get together. One of the topics would be football recruiting, something that Miss King does very, very well, and she has been on Jalon Thompson, a three-star from Olympic High School in Orlando, Florida, the sixth kid from Florida to commit to Carolina in the class of 2024. He is the number 57 player nationally at his position at safety. Took an official to Carolina early in June. I'll get into some other stuff about some of the other schools that offer. But Deana, Jalon Thompson is the latest in a wave of commitments for Mac Brown's program. What are your thoughts?
He's, they're riding a big wave recruiting wise. And when you talk to these kids, and Lee Wardlaw, our recruiting writer, he spoke to Jalon after his official visit, and it's like a common theme when we talk to kids, family atmosphere, the coaching staff caring. It's just that's a big factor in these kids wanting to play for Coach Brown. Also, being a safety, a defensive back, the relationship with Coach Warren was big time. Coach Warren is kind of like Coach Galloway on the offensive side. They're like mentors, big brothers, fatherly figures, and these kids respect them and everything. So, academics is really high for Jalon as well, because his mom is in education and everything. So he fit all the boxes that in Carolina to offer and everything. So it seems like a good pickup for the Tar Heels.
Some of the other schools that offer Jalon Thompson, I'll run through them real fast here. Central Florida, which is hometown school there in Orlando. Pitt, which has put a lot of DBs in the NFL. Cincinnati, Maryland. Maryland's done a good job with skill guys, too, the last couple of years. Nebraska, they offer a lot of kids. Penn State has done a really good job hitting the Southeast for kids. Purdue, South Florida. Then you got, Vanderbilt as well. So you got Purdue, Vanderbilt, really good academic schools, Pitt as well, and West Virginia. I think the thing that pops here to me about Jalon Thompson is it's another one of these kids that is really embracing the full sales pitch of the 40-year decision, but also he's a kid that wants to win. There's a lot of kids in this class that talk about winning. Sometimes kids focus on getting to the NFL. I could become the best I can there, and that's great. You want that as well. But I've noticed the theme with a lot of kids in this class is they want to win. They want to be a part of something in which they win. And that's another one of the layers that make him an interesting pickup, because when you get a bunch of DBs back there that want to win, discipline at that position is so huge. And then sometimes I think those kids tend to be a little bit more disciplined because they're more, in basketball terminology, front of the jersey driven.
Yeah. They're taking several DBs,
A lot.
I'm sure we can break them down to kind of the positions, but when you lost a lot of DBs like they did in the portal and everything, they got to replenish the defensive secondary. So, they actually did go in the portal and get some guys as well, but you want some younger guys in there to mesh. And so Thompson, they're recruiting him as a safety. and they like his versatility. He could, sometimes these kids come in there and they say they want to start them out at one position and realize, well, hey, they might can help us, at this position. So it's good to have a lot of depth back there. And as we know, covering Carolina, the history of North Carolina and the secondary and their injuries and everything come up, and that depth will be much needed. And having a kid like Thompson that could possibly play a couple positions back in the secondary is really beneficial.
Well, also don't discount every once in a while safety moving up and playing some linebacker. The leading tacklers in a 6-year stretch were Jeff Schottmer and Cole Holcomb, who were both walk-on safeties when they got to Carolina, and they ended up being all ACC linebackers. And Holcomb just signed a huge deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who was in Washington. He's an NFL guy. I'm not saying this is what Jalen Thompson's going to be, but I like that they're bringing in a lot of DBs because, A, it's kind of a crapshoot with DBs. You see a lot of highly rated DBs go into college and not excel. And then you see a lot of kids come from out of nowhere at DB and excel. So you bring in a decent number of kids back there, you figure if 2 of them become really good, that's not bad. And then you get 2 more that are pretty good, or maybe a kid ends up moving and changing positions and you want to go speed with those inside linebacker spots or even on the outside or even jack. I think that you have some flexibility when you bring in a lot of safeties. And that's why I really like what they're doing here. Because also you're talking smart kids. Smart kids are more adept at changing positions. I mentioned Schottmer and Holcomb. They were walk-ons, so they were smart guys. They got into school academically, and they were able to change positions and excel. So I'm not saying, and we aren't saying Jalen Thompson is going to change positions, but when you look at the whole of that group back there, it wouldn't be a surprise. And I think they're bringing in a lot of flexible dudes that might be able to do that.
Unless you mentioned it earlier in the podcast, another kid from Florida. And, what can we say about that footprint leave?
Yeah.
It's definitely moved south,
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny because, they've only got one kid from Virginia committed, Usada the
kicker. The kicker.
Yeah. And so the downward southerly wave of recruiting went down. I know Georgia's always going to be in the mix, but Georgia and Florida, they have almost 70% account for about 70% of the commitments. Yeah. So,
and we'll do another pod on that. We've done a lot of pods on how the recruiting approach has changed a little bit, and there's so many kids in Georgia and Florida, as you've said 1,000 times, they all can't go to Florida, Florida State, and Georgia. So they got to go other places. And they also keep in mind, too, part of the shift is where a lot of the experience of the guys on the staff have recruiting. They have inroads down there, Charlton Warren in Georgia, and there's some Florida flavor with this staff as well. So that's a part of it too. And also this might not be for 24 the greatest year for Virginia talent. It's not the greatest year for North Carolina talent at certain positions. It is a wide receiver. And we've done we talked a lot about that. And that's why July could be a very exciting month as well for North Carolina fans because of wide receiver. But this is a good pickup. This is a depth pickup. This is one of those guys we could be talking about in a few years. Like, well, look at him. Look at what he turned out to be. Because a lot of these mid 3-star kids, a lot of them end up being big-time players. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens with Jalen Thompson. I think this is a solid pickup, and I love the depth in the secondary in this class.
Yeah,
I think that's
as
so
you
big.
Mentioned several times, Cedric Gray and
Cayman Rucker
being one of the top players, and Cayman Rucker being 3 stars and the best players on the defense. So
remember, Cedric was first recruited by a lot of people as a wide receiver. So
it just keeps the momentum going for Carolina, and July's is heading for another. They're looking for a strong finish.
Yeah, I think you're going to see Deana on here in some pods this month. There's no doubt about that. Jalen Thompson, three-star safety from Orlando, Florida, is the latest member of Carolina's deep class of 2024 that is going to get deeper here in the next month. So stay with us and make sure you hop on over to TarIllustrated.com. Sign up, guys. It's just $8.33 a month. That's it. And you could be an insider too and have tremendous discourse with other very knowledgeable Carolina football and basketball fans, because that's, I think, one of the best parts of our site. She's Deana. I'm AJ. We appreciate you guys stopping by.